If you want to know how to continue growing throughout fall and winter and protect your veggies from frost damage like these, you're going to need a hoop house. So stay tuned and I'm going to show you how to build one. Make sure you stay to the end of the video because I've got a special freebie that's going to help you get the very best out of your hoop house. So keep watching and I'll tell you how to get your hands on it. We've got some pressure treated 2x4s, correct, 8 feet in length, and I have 6 of those because I'm making 2. I've also got normal 2x4s, and these are going to be the struts, the 2x4s that are going to be the supporting top beam for these plastic ribs. I'm using some clear plastic sheeting. It is 10 foot by 25 foot and it's a 6mm. Some of you might be wondering why I chose the pressure treated wood, and the simple fact is that over in that part of the garden where these hoop houses are going to be, it gets wet, and the raised beds that I've already built, I built them out of cedar and they're already starting to decompose. Now I know with pressure treated wood there's a lot of concern about the contaminants that are in there, and the heavy metals and stuff like that, some of the dodgy things. Quite honestly, I bought the pressure treated stuff because it was going to be more cost effective. I would be getting multiple seasons of use out of this hoop house than I am with just using untreated wood. Where I live, the fact that even if I've stained wood in my garden boxes out in the other side of the garden, they're already falling apart and they're rotting. So, you know, I've had maybe 3 years with them before they've started to fall apart. Ones that are in the slightly wetter areas, they've been sprouting mushrooms since the first year. So that to me is not a great sign, but just, you know, you might want to think about the pros and cons of using pressure treated wood if you're concerned about those contaminants leaching into the food. Okay, you could use a liner. You could also put a barrier, so you could put like normal wood down on the ground first and then the pressure treated stuff on top, and that way it's not going to be coming into contact with the soil and the food that you're growing. I know that the 8 foot is going to be fine. Measuring 4 foot. I know this is upside down, but I'm marking off 4 feet because 2 of these need to be in half. Let's just mark out somewhat straight. It's mostly straight. Safety first when it comes to woodworking, guys, okay? I've got some safety glasses. Even though I wear glasses, I am going to be switching out to safety glasses. I have steel-toed shoes on because I know I'm prone to drop things, and I'm going to get some gloves on as well, just to protect from splinters. So always be careful, make sure you're wearing your right safety gear, and if you're not familiar with tools like I'm not, I'm roping in some help from this guy.
Job.
Whoop, whoop. We've now got to measure down the whole length of this piece of wood. I already know that it's 8 feet, but what I'm using the tape measure for here is to mark off every 2 feet, and that's where I'm going to be putting a hole that's going to hold that pipe in. So this project doesn't use rebar or anything like that to hold the pipe in. We're literally just going to be drilling some holes and letting friction do the work for us. So on both of these long lengths, every 2 feet, there is going to be a hole drilled. I'm just using a straight edge or a square to line up and just draw a straight line on where I've marked out as being those 2 feet markers. It's just for a visual aid, so I know where to put the bit that I'm going to be using to drill the big old holes in this wood. Then I'm using the tape measure to figure out what the halfway point is, and I'm just making a little X marks the spot so I know where to put that drill bit. I'm using a 3/4 inch spoon bit to drill these holes. The pipe itself is a 1/2 inch diameter. That's 1/2 inch internal diameter. The external diameter is 3/4 inch. So these are going to be snug, which is what's going to allow us to be able to use friction and some basic physics to help keep the pipe in there. And one little trick here is that I'm drilling most of the way, about 3/4 of the way through the wood here, and then I'm flipping it over to check to see if it's gone all the way through. And then when I see the hole of where the little bit of the drill bit is, then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to drill from that side to reduce the amount of tear out. It just gives it a little neater finish. Now I am measuring up approximately where the end pieces are going to be, and I'm marking off roughly where to pre-drill some holes. And I'm just using the sides of the wood to figure out like how high to go and how close in I need to be. And what we're going to do is we're going to pre-drill the holes, and the reason for us to pre-drill the holes is to prevent splitting. I live in a drier area, so if I don't pre-drill the wood, then we get quite a lot of splitting that happens when you try to screw it together. Now it's just a case of aligning the ends and screwing it in. To make the rib support, we actually ripped a 2x4 down. So first of all, we split it in half, and then we took one of those halves and split it again, so we had thinner pieces. And the reason for that is we didn't want it to be too heavy that it actually compresses those ribs down. I need the height. To mark out the holes on the rib support, I'm actually using one of the lengths to mark up onto that support where those holes are, so I know where to drill. I'm using the same bit that I did on the main lengths to drill the holes into this support. We actually rounded the edges of this support using a router and a rounding edge router bit, so there wouldn't be anything for the plastic to snag on. We measured the amount of plastic piping that we needed for the hoops by putting one end into the hole and then bending it across until we got the height that we wanted. To start really assembling everything together, you need to first of all push the hoops through the middle support beam. It's going to make things a lot easier if you do it this way, because you've got a lot more mobility, and they are a little difficult to get in there, and you know, you just need to kind of keep wiggling it and pushing it and pulling it, and eventually it will go through. The next step is to put those hoops into the frame. Using the exact same process, we're just going to wiggle them into those holes. Now my husband is actually trying to center that middle support beam a little bit, so when we come to skinning it or covering it with plastic, that's going to be the center point. So we've actually made a bit of a faux pas with this, because this is actually far too long. We're not going to be able to have the front of the hoop house sloping down like we did on the other houses. So right here you can see this is jutting out way too far. What we want is, when this plastic gets covered, we want it to be able to slope down here, so the water's going to run off. If we have a straight side on it, then that's a potential where the wind's going to be able to push it, rip it, blow it forward. So this is the exact same mistake that we made earlier in the year making hoop houses for the raised beds. So what we've got to do is cut this off a bit and then round it out so it's not going to create a jagged edge for when that slopes down. So I was right. Don't make the same mistake that we did twice. Make sure that the support at the top is shorter than the overall length of the bed, so you're able to get that nice sloping side.
It's all her fault.
It's all my fault. We have got 10 by 24, no, 10 by 25. There's a bug in it, there's a bug in it, there's a bug in it.
What's the matter?
There's a bug in it.
It's dead fly.
Oh, the dead fly. Okay, never mind. Cover the hoop house. We've got 6mm thick polythene. This is just like drop cloth, painting, plastic, cover up stuff. Didn't splash out for the greenhouse stuff because quite frankly I didn't know if it would get here in time, so I just went to the nearest hardware store and picked this up. So this particular roll is 10 feet by 25 feet. Hopefully it's enough. Dexter's Lab, take 2. And we just want to make sure we've got enough on.
You got it out.
It needs to go up on your side a little bit, I think. Okay, so I'm just going to lift it up so you guys can see. So Chris is at the other end and he's making sure that we've got enough dropping over on that side. Okay, we're rolling it under.
Doing 3-inch folds. So basically the tips of my fingers.
Okay, 3-inch-ish. So I'm just checking that everything has rolled up underneath appropriately, and now I'm using the pneumatic staple gun just to staple it in. Try to do it at the thick points where the plastic's been rolled over. If you try and do it through a single layer of plastic, you're just going to tear the plastic.
Look how nice and tight.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead and staple this way.
Okay.
Right up to where my fingers are.
I need to put more in that side.
We will. I just wanted to get this side squared away first, you know?
Right now we're coming to doing the end, and what we've got to do is pull one side taut, staple it under, and then fold across the other side and then pull it taut and fold it under. There is a lot of excess plastic that we have at this point, so we do cut some off so we can actually roll it under and get the staples in there. So if you want to get the very best from your hoop house, then you need to grow the right vegetables in it, right? Hi, yes. then I've got just the thing for you. I've created a free cheat sheet that's got more than 20 different vegetables and herbs in it for you to download. And if you want to get hold of that, just go down into the bottom in the description and there's a link there, and you can click that and it will take you to the page where you can get it sent straight to your inbox.